This news broadcast is delivered by Mr. D, saluting all women who get things done.
Power News.
The top stories at the South. The Durban High Court has granted the ANC leave to appeal a prior judgment concerning the MK trademark, and Gauteng Taxi Association, SAMRO and NTA distanced themselves from ongoing acts of intimidation and extortion targeting e-hailing operators. With the news at 1, a very good afternoon to you. I'm Nyakallo Tefu. In a recent development in the trademark dispute between the ANC and the MK party, the Durban High Court has granted the ANC leave to appeal a prior judgment concerning the MK trademark. This ruling permits the ANC to challenge the earlier decision in a higher court. In his April ruling, Judge Mahendra Chetty highlighted that Section 20 of the Electoral Commission Act authorizes the Electoral Court to hear and determine an appeal against any decision of the Commission when it involves the interpretation of any law. He also noted that the ANC had failed to establish a clear right to relief concerning the name Umkhonto Wesizwe or the use of the logo. The spokesperson for the MK party, Nhlamulo Ndlela, has stated that the case is not related to the trademark dispute but is solely focused on issues involving Fikile Mbalula.
And, this is the case with Mbalula. Mbalula was found and caught sleeping on duty, and now he's kicking and screaming off the back of what he knows is a train that has left the station. I mean, the horse is bolted in this matter. So he's just desperate, but that's the case with Mbalula. He must focus on managing his own entity and growing his party, which lost and got below 40%.
The Department of Employment and Labour is currently conducting an inspection at the Themba Magistrates Court. This is part of the department's commitment to check for compliance with occupational health and safety standards. The inspectors will also check compliance at one of the companies at the Babeleji Industrial Park. We cross live now to Power News' Lerato Moza, who has been following developments for us. Lerato, what have the inspectors found?
Well, Nyakalo, the labour inspectors have found that a number of court sections are not complying with health and safety standards. Just at the entrance of the court precinct, there's a sewer spillage. Most toilets in the holding cells are dysfunctional and dirty, posing a health hazard. There's also no lights and ventilation in the holding cells, with air conditioners that are not working. The inspectors have since prohibited the use of the children's court section after identifying that the stairs at the entrance are not balanced. Where there's ramps, the inspectors have found that the guardrails are also not balanced. All fire extinguishers towards the holding cells are not in service, whilst the emergency exit door does not open, raising a concern should a fire break out. The department has since decided to prohibit the use of the holding cells until the emergency exit door has been fixed. Lerato Moza, Power News, reporting live at the Themba Magistrate Court in Hammanskraal.
In other news, speakers at the funeral service of the victims of last month's scholar transport crash in Carltonville say they were looking forward to the children's bright futures. A joint funeral service for 10 of the 11 school pupils is underway in Fortville on Gauteng's West Rand. The learners and their driver died when the scholar transport was reportedly rear-ended by a bakkie, causing it to overturn and burst into flames. Mourners have expressed a deep sense of pain that the children's lives have been cut so short. Principal at Rockland Primary School, which lost 10 learners in that horrific crash, Fundiswa Badashe, says the school will continue to support the affected families.
These young souls were more than just learners. They were our children, our future and our hope. Each one of them brought a unique talents, dreams and aspirations that brighten our school and our lives. Their laughter, curiosity, boundless energy will ever be etched in our memories.
And Gauteng Taxi Association, SAMRO and NTA distanced themselves from ongoing acts of intimidation and extortion targeting e-hailing operators. The two associations are responding to claims that their members are using violent tactics to force e-hailing operators to use Shesha, the new South African-owned e-hailing app. Numerous e-hailing operators claim they have been forced at gunpoint to delete Uber and Bolt apps so that they can use the Shesha app, which is backed backed by the two taxi associations. NTA spokesperson Theo Malele condemned such criminal acts, saying the perpetrators must be reported to the police.
These matters are sheer thuggery and as such should be reported to law enforcement authorities so that these are nipped in the bud once and for all, because we are here to make money but not to create enemies.
A look at your financial indicators. The rand is trading at 18 rand 42 cents to the US dollar, 23 rand 37 cents to the pound, 20 rand 13 cents to the euro. Gold's trading at $2,404.69 a fine ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $78.04 a barrel. Recapping the top story in Power News at this hour, the Durban High Court has granted the ANC leave to appeal a prior judgment concerning the MK trademark.
Power News.
Celebrate Women's Month with us. Mr. D is thrilled to honor the amazing women who embody dedication and achievement. This month, it's all about paying tribute to all the women who get things done. We proudly salute you, support you, and admire you for your ability to get things done. Shop the Mr. D app and get amazing deals when you order this Women's Month. Mr. D. The D is for done.
On FM, online, and DSTV channel 889. This is Power 98.7.
987 Women Takeover. Power Lunch is brought to you by the Southern African Music Rights Organization.
And now you're listening to Power Lunch, weekdays 12 to 3 p.m. on Power 98.7. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
All right. Gosh, I'm having so much fun in the studio. And I was just saying to the team here that you cannot not dance to Herb Albert. It's one of my favorite old school, reminds me of home, reminds me of a Sunday morning, just chilling, Mama next door, Banti's a boom blaster. You know, it's just that kind of atmosphere of just growing up, and there was music all around you. And this is a music that my dad taught us in the family. So I just wanted a song that also reflected Koket's one thing and life and love and everything that was fun back in the days. So coming up in the next hour is the Mr. D giveaway moment where you stand a chance to win 1,000 Rand in Mr. D coupon, redeemable only on the Mr. D app. Check the giveaway on Power 98.7.co.za under 987 Women tab to participate. We look forward to that time.
Hi, I'm Innocentia Mutau. I'll be presenting the Power Breakfast Show on the 7th of August between 6 and 9.
It's always a good idea to celebrate women. I've had a very bright journey that not many people know about Innocentia, and I think this is a very fertile platform that will allow me to share my good stories and lessons that I learned over time, so I'm happy to be here.
I'm bringing my unique career path to the show that as an inland kid who grew up in Mamelodi, not knowing anything about oceans economy, would be able to share what I'm achieving in it and how possible it is for young women out there who also want to be part of the blue economy. And I've got good stories to share, I've got good experiences to share, lessons learned, the good, the bad and the ugly.
So I am bringing that forth, and I'm also bringing my entrepreneurship flair. I would like interactions, I would like questions. Don't be afraid. I'm sitting with a body of knowledge of what I do in the shipping industry, in the athleisure space. I'm sitting with a body of knowledge with what I do in advocacy on entrepreneurship in the G20 space, about all the top 20 economies. South Africa is hosting the G20 next year. Come in, ask, let's prepare, let's welcome the world together.
The 2024 987 Women Takeover from the 7th to the 9th of August. Visit power987.co.za for more. #987woman. From the 7th to the 9th of August, the 2024 987 Woman Takeover, celebrating 10 years of inspiring and groundbreaking moments on Power 98.7. Now we're talking. #987woman.
All right, welcome back, Power Lunch family. And I'm looking forward to this conversation because it centers around what I do in my role as the CEO of the Southern African Music Rights Organization. And as we've sprinkled a bit of music throughout the show, we cannot not talk about the music rights industry and music rights administration and just really understanding what that means. I'm looking forward to a conversation right now with Titi Luzipo. Titi, good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this conversation. Just for our listeners to understand before I get into the point of it all, Titi, just to indicate to our listeners that the organization that we work for, that I have the joy and the honor of leading, is the Southern African Music Rights Organization. It's been around since 1961. And it really is the guardian of music rights in South Africa, championing the interests of composers and authors as well as publishers, not only nationally but also internationally. So we are dedicated to maintaining a world-class copyright administration regime, obviously based on the law. I think it's important to underpin the fact that the work that SAMRO does, as well as other CMOs, collecting management organization, really is a legislative responsibility, right? But moving to that, and Titi, I just want to let the listeners know that I listened to your music 2 days ago and I was just blown away. Welcome to the show. I was totally blown away. Like, how have I not known that you're such an amazing artist?
I have no idea. In fact, Power FM listeners should toy that because they've been such a great support of my music. So they must toy for you because you should be knowing my music.
I should. If Pa, listeners, please take time to go look at her YouTube. I think there was a concert that he did in the Eastern Cape a few years ago, and I was just literally blown away, literally blown away, and it's just such a privilege to be talking to you. Also, I'm talking to you because you're a member of SAMRO, and I really want to delve into, who you are as an artist. What started all of this? Maybe just give us an idea of DT and the time that you started music at UCT, but tell us a sense of who you are as an artist and what music means to you.
So my being a singer-songwriter started at a very, very, very young age. I must have been between 5 and 6 when my mother sort of realized that we may just have a superstar in the house.
Wonderful.
Using all the spoons as microphones, I think, was maybe the first step to me becoming that superstar in the house. And, whenever there was some music, I would just want to stand in the lounge and I wanted to be the star. I would sing every ad and sing every song that there was. But it also helped that my mother is still one of the most impeccable singers that I know. And she was part of a band called the Soul Jasmine back in the 70s, 80s, and they were a hit jazz band. And I think that's where I sort of took the knowledge and love for music. I guess then I knew by that time that it would be genetic. But prior to that, it is a generational blessing. My grandfather, who is actually a former member of SAMRO, was an incredible choral composer. And so he passed it on to my mother, and my mother passed it on to me. So I'm actually like the 4th generation of music at home, and I'm feeling very blessed and honored to be tapping into a space that my mother didn't stretch into in terms of songwriting and, becoming a full-time performer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine that back in the day, there was a lot of constraints around what they could do in their time as live performers. And I think I'm really blessed to have expanded that in a more wider space because we are living in a more liberated country.
Indeed.
So it kind of started there, and I think getting to know better what comes with the music, what comes with the knowledge. Organizations such as SAMRO, Capasso, Risa, now being a recording artist, I had to kind of tap into a space where I am fully aware of my surroundings. I'm fully aware of what belongs to me, what doesn't as a songwriter, my participation, my collaborations, etc., etc. So it's been quite an interesting journey. And some of these things actually we don't learn at school.
We don't.
Most of them.
You learn, right? These are life lessons.
We absolutely don't learn at school.
Yeah.
We learn these things through growth. I mean, I remember when I first got to Joburg, I would call everyone that I possibly knew from Potringo Matingozi to Zaibala to Bakongo to Gloria Bosman Village and say, okay, how does this work? How do I become a member of SAMRO? How do I register my songs? What happens if I collaborate here? What happens in a venue that is registered under SAMRO, et cetera, And I must say they were very generous in their information and in just, responding to me in a very positive way. Disclaimer, I am still learning. You never stop learning. I am still learning.
We are learning together. Trust me, I'm also learning. I think over 18 months in the position, I'm still learning a lot. But I'd really like to, Didi, you mentioned that you are a composer, author, and it's important that as we learn collectively, we are also sharing information and these lessons, right? So I want us to maybe just paint a picture for our listeners and prospect members at SAMRO, but also just to make sure that they understand this landscape that we're talking about. So as a composer and owning the right that is your work, how do you see the role of organizations like a SAMRO as part of the protection of your right?
Oh, that's a feces question.
For a fake Friday.
Right. So the indication of a composer starts, I guess, from what the composer applies into the song. And we get things such as co-composer, but if we were just to focus on the definition of what a composer is, a composer obviously is someone that has derived a melody into a song, and this song has never been heard before, right? And then we get collaborators. So you get your producer, you get your co-composer, you get someone that writes just one little line, but they become then the co-composers. But to answer your question on how important organizations like SAMRO is, because then SAMRO comes in and says, well, we are going to protect these composers, right? And we are going to give them what is due to them and give them the credit that they deserve as composers, right? So this means that even if Beyonce, which is my greatest wish for her to sing my song, when Beyonce
it will come true.
We manifest.
Indeed. Yes, we manifest.
Beyonce says, I would like to cover the song, right? Then we know that the credit has been given to the original composer, right? We have now identified this person as the composer, and now we invite Beyonce as a performer. And I do want to say that there is a vast difference between a performer and a composer. And I'll make a typical example of myself.
Yes.
There's a song on my album titled Inyati. Inyati was composed by my brother. By
your brother, yes.
My brother. He owns the song, right? I own the performance rights, but I do not own the composition rights. And if you go on SAMRO, SAMRO has always given us a very clear indication as to what the differences of this music is, what these terms mean. And focusing on Inyati, so my brother writes the song, I then perform the song, but then Luyanda Matope then produces the song. And then that means that he needs to get the producer royalties of the song, because had it not been for him, the song wouldn't sound like what it's sounding like today. And had it not been for my brother who wrote the song, the song wouldn't exist.
Wouldn't exist.
Exactly. And if it weren't for me, people, the audience, the people that we write for wouldn't know the song, because then this makes me the performer. So there's a lot of different compartments. It's very important that even the audience knows what goes into songwriting, composers, etc., etc.
Indeed, and I like that you created that distinction for our listeners, because more often than not, what doesn't come across very clearly for the public is understanding that a song like a song like the example that you've just given, you don't own the song, but you are popularizing the song because you are the face of the song. You are the face of the music and what we hear. And more often than not, what ends up happening is that the public associates the song only with you. And so sometimes when we come into these rights disputes, it's because the public is saying, but why is Titi not being paid for the song by SAMRO? Whereas Titi doesn't actually own the song.
I do not own the song.
And I really wanted us to maybe just shed some light on those distinctions, as you just carrying the message a bit further from your earlier point.
So just to, and I'm so glad that you asked this question this way in terms of the financial implication, right? SAMRO pays the composer, right? The people that watch my shows pay me as the performer.
Exactly.
Right, and it's very important that we look at it in that way. SAMRO will pay the composer. SAMRO will pay my brother, and SAMRO is likely to pay my producer, because when we register the song, SAMRO will give you a form that says who produced the song, who wrote the song, who's distributing the song, etc., etc., etc. But I will not get the royalties as a performer. The audience pays me because I'm the face of the song, as you said. So all the big fees that I charge for, those are my performer royalties, so to speak. That's the performance fee, and that's why it's called a performance fee. So if Power FM calls me today and says, Titi, we are going to give you 3 rands for Inyati performance, that 3 rand comes to me
directly to you.
Performed directly to me because I performed the song. And then in the end, what Power FM will usually do is to say, well, Titi, here's a release form. right?
Yes.
Please sign this release form. And on the release form, it will ask me who composed the song.
Right.
So that the new royalties then can go to the original composer of the song.
composer.
This has happened on many instances, and I'm so glad that this conversation is now happening on a more public platform, because we've had instances where the media will say, Titi Luzipota is broke because the record label, blah, 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 blah. And because there is not enough understanding as to what goes on behind the scenes before we get on stage, a lot of things and a lot of information is then distorted. And it's so important that we start having these conversations much greater on a public platform.
Exactly.
I know now there was a dispute with Malaika and TD, for instance, as to what happens to the IP, what happens to the intellectual property. And in that conversation, then we need to start looking at who is the producer of this track. Capasso talks of needle time, right?
Sampra.
Sorry. Sampra speaks of needle time. And Sampra will give us our designated and our due needle time. But we need to now speak about the producer royalties. Who produced the song? And who composed the song? Who sang whatever they sang on track? Remember, when we record music, we get paid a session fee.
A session fee, right.
Right, and that session fee is a once-off. And then once the song is registered with SAMRO and all the other collecting organizations, then Sampra then comes and says, well, Titi, you sang BBs on the Malaika song. Here's your needle time.
Right.
So we really need to understand what these organizations are there for, the distinctions thereof, absolutely.
And also I think importantly is to understand that all these organizations are administering a different set of rights, right?
Yes.
So SAMRO is responsible for performing rights. And just for listeners, if you've just joined us, you are in conversation with Titi Luzipo, who is a member of SAMRO, and we're just shedding some light on the work of SAMRO and the responsibilities that we have as custodians of this copyright asset and the financial implications of properly ensuring that the right and the appropriate composers and owners of the music are duly compensated through royalties. I do also want to maybe just before as we head to news, is to talk about licensing and the responsibility or the chain of licensing responsibility. And I do want to maybe just give a word of gratitude to those music users who are licensed with a SAMRO, because it's only through those licensing arrangements and the fees that we are able to pay royalties to a composer like yourself and the rest of our members. So maybe and particularly in light of this the digital age that we're in and the digital service platforms, user generated content that is available on TikTok and YouTube. What does that world mean for composers and creators, and our responsibility obviously to license those particular institutions in summary, if you could, please?
Absolutely. I'll be honest, as a disclaimer, as I said earlier, again, I am still a student when it comes to some of these things, but I can definitely have a little bit of an insight on that. The authorization, the use of a performance or a song or a composition, whatever we may call it, I think first of all lies in the distributor. And I think that's the one thing that we need to hammer. Who is the distributor? Because the distributor will give us the analytics, and those analytics then get taken to the relevant organizations. But now that we are in the age of social media, digital music, etc., and all of these other digital platforms, these digital platforms give us the analytics. Right. I load my song. Before my song gets to Apple Music, it gets loaded, it gets licensed first by a distributor.
Titi, I'm sorry, I'm going to be rude. I've been given instructions about watching the time, and as the clock ticks away to 1:30, I have to hand over to Nyaka Lebethe. But I really want to thank you for the time, and continue composing great music. You know, it's amazing that we have such wealth of music in South Africa. All the best to you, Titi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Annabelle.
Thanks so much, Titi. Over to you, Nyaka Lebethe, with the 1:30 news headlines.
Thanks, Annabelle. Good afternoon. In news making headlines at this hour, former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's former PA, Murwadi Cholota, is set to arrive in Johannesburg this afternoon after she was extradited from the United States. Cholota was considered a pivotal witness for the state in a 255 million rand corrupt asbestos tender scheme. However, she was charged after she declined to cooperate and is now treated as an accused. And several high-ranking Free State government officials are accused of participating in the scheme, which involved the receipt of bribes from funds intended to pay for the removal of dangerous asbestos from the homes of the province's poorest citizens. In other news, Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chelwane says his department will be clamping down on unethical conduct in the private scholar transport industry. Chelwane was speaking on the sidelines of a joint funeral service for the victims of a scholar transport crash in Carltonville. Now, in July, 11 school pupils and their driver perished when the transport was reportedly rear-ended by a bakkie, causing it to overturn before catching fire. The driver of the bakkie, Gert van Emmenis, was arrested and charged with 12 counts of culpable homicide. He has since been released on 20,000 rand bail. MEC Chelwane says they will engage the private scholar transport sector on matters of compliance and safety.
The crackdown, what I mean is that we are going to firm our hands. And the tool that we have as a department at our hands is the schools, because they bring these children to schools. We've got patrollers at schools. These patrollers are going to give them an instruction to say they must go and assess the vehicles that bring our children to school. And as the vehicle comes, they look at the state, they report it. And if we are not happy with the condition of that vehicle, we are taking a responsibility that we are going to keep our learners.
I will have more on these and other stories at 2.
The 987 Woman Takeover is celebrating 10 years of amazing and groundbreaking moments by honoring dynamic women in South Africa. Download the Mr. D app on Android or App Store now and join thousands who are ordering food from over 12,000 restaurants, shopping for Pick and Pay groceries at in-store prices. Remember, with Mr. D, you can pay with cash, card or EFT and track your order in real time. Once you've downloaded the app, visit the Power 98.7 website, complete the form, answer a simple question and stand a chance to win one of 12 1,000 Rand Mr. D coupons. This promotion is valid from the 7th to the 9th of August as part of the 987 Woman Takeover between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Coupons are redeemable on the Mr. D app only. T's and C's apply.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
The Mpumalanga Community Safety Department says an investigation is underway following a fatal accident.
City Power says it's in consultation with its legal representatives.
Unanticipated, unpredictable. News just happens.
In other news, more than 150 people residing in Katlohong in Ekurhuleni have signed.
And when it does, trust us to be there and to bring it to you.
The Border Management Authority says
Power News, covering your news 24/7, around the clock. Stay informed, and for more up-to-date news, follow us on Twitter at Power987 News.
Sikhona Malinga Mnisi, Bapana Nzimande.
Power 98.7. Now we're talking.
The 2024 987 Woman Takeover. #987Woman.
All right, welcome back, Power Lunch family. I am your host, Annabell Lebethe, CEO of SAMRO, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. She's just walked in and she says, "You're God like a cockamoy." I'm laughing at her. I'm laughing at her because this needs so this is a tea moment. This is me and you having a cup of tea or something stronger, whatever that strength is that you require. Right? Tiamo, how are you? Welcome.
Yo, Annabell. Kisharp. Thank you so much for inviting me, and good afternoon to Power listeners out there.
Wow, Tiamo, I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing, right? Because Power listeners, just to introduce my guest, this is Tiamo Mokhadi. She is the CEO of the Market Theatre Foundation. And just a reminder, we are in studio. Our studio number is 0861 987 3 zeros. 97,000. WhatsApp number 083 303 7093. And I've also been told that we are on live streaming on the Power FM YouTube channel. Frequencies Pretoria 98.7 and Johannesburg as well. If you are in the South or the West Rand, 103.6. Vereniging, you can tune in on 104.4. Ekurhuleni East Rand 107.2 and live streaming also on audio channel 889. Tiamo.
Annabell.
Oh, all right. So I wanted to have a conversation. I must say, guys, sometimes these positions can be very lonely. Right? Yeah. We are fighting on all fronts. There's a board, there are staff, there is the artist, you are in the middle. How do you woosa? What makes you woosa? What makes you wake up the next day after today's hecticness? What makes you wake up the following day?
Yo. I sometimes go at 100 years per minute. Yo. I wish I had Madim protocol on sometimes. Anyway, how do I woosa?
Yeah.
Because it can get a lot. And I think, as you say, and I've also called a couple of times to be like, oh, I don't know who to talk to, you know.
Yes.
But the one thing, so apart from trying to find other things, whether it's your lipstick effect type things that pick me up, like just working on my garden, which is looking very bad at this point in time. I think it's reflective of my current state of mind. But working on my garden, I have found to be very therapeutic. I tried gym. It didn't work out, so that's not it. Traveling for me, but unfortunately sometimes the work schedule is so much and the economy is not that great.
Yes,
but traveling also does help, just to switch off and just get off the grid and just reconnect with myself. Meditation is something that I've just recently started. Also, like at the recommendation of somebody like you, one of my tribe, you know, that I lean into when I'm going through the most, and was like, listen, there are certain intervals that we meet per week. Let's do that. But above everything else, so that's just for me, Tiamo, the mental, the emotional, the physical human being, right?
Yes.
And then, but what keeps me going back to work, honestly, even when it feels like it's the passion for what I do. I really enjoy what I do. It was teka-taking, I'm not going to lie. That passion was teka-taking for a bit.
Those moments come, hey?
For a bit, a couple of months ago. But just the reminder of why I do it and who I do it for, and the benefit that can have on the other side of it. I think that's what I've had to remember not to lose sight of.
Yeah. Tiamo, so you've, just for listeners to know, Tiamo has come through the sort of career chain pipeline of the Market Theatre, having worked there previously as a producer of the Market Theatre and appointed in 2020.
For CEO, 2020.
Yeah, and 2020 she was appointed to be at the helm of the organization. You know, how do you find that these challenges are building you as the CEO that you want to be, and the CEO that you think should have known certain things at a particular point? How do these shape who you are today as a C-suite executive?
I think the first is just how the relationship that I have with the team and the general staff, where, as you say, I was one, so that it's not misconstrued, I was one of them.
Yes.
I am still part of the team, but I was at below
different
the
level.
C-suite
Yes.
level.
Yes.
And I'm more or less the same age as most of them, if not younger to some of them. And that transition coming back after, because I think I left for 5 years and I went to go do other things, and coming back and
in a
new qualifications, new role, and trying to then reset, and how one relates to staff. That, I think, has been one of the biggest challenges. And that's not to say, I think for me, some of it was also fueled, if you would call it, by the imposter syndrome. I still remember when they called me to offer me the job. I was like, are you guys sure you called the right person? You're speaking to Tiamo. I know there were other people there in the interview. So imposter syndrome also gets a lot on you, and then trying to always find the balance of, yes, I know we used to be colleagues and we are still colleagues in different forms,
with different responsibilities,
right? So but also just let's also give each other space to do what we need to do. I still trust you, and I think also sometimes maybe I don't know if it landed or didn't land or wasn't received the way it was, but it would be, I would always say, I rely on you as the manager, because you're the subject matter expert.
You can't do everything.
I'm
as
a jack
CEO.
of all trade and a master of none.
Yes.
I just have a working function and knowledge of each of your areas.
Exactly.
So I know how to do my research when you present something to me, so that I can test it and we can discuss it and I can contribute. But I still need you to lead me and guide me in, this is the strategy that board or mandate has given to us. I come and I say, guys, I think this is how we translate it. You need to tell me if that makes sense, if it's going to work for you, for your department, for your resources, for your staffing, or if it's not, And just trying to fine tune that relationship, I think, is one of the
difficulties or the challenges.
The growing areas that one, still has to do. Add to that, the changing environment, right? Like right now, I'm just looking at trying to hone, to better develop my change management skills, because it's not just what COVID did to the industry, but it's our macro and microeconomic outlook. It is the social issues that impact us, impact the people that we do the work for. So as a manager, I am constantly, if you look at my thing, I went from a BA dramatic arts undergrad to a master's in business, and like constantly needing to be
to learn and to change and to pivot.
Exactly.
Tiamo, so you are at the helm of an iconic South African theatre, like iconic,
and the pressure,
nationally, internationally, and the pressure. I couldn't have found a better word, right? And the pressure that comes with just really being at the helm of the Market Theatre Foundation. And just for listeners to know, Market Theatre Foundation is the Market Theatre as itself, sort of the granddaddy of institutions in South Africa, together with the Market Theatre Laboratory, that is the training and development aspect of it, and the Market Photo Workshop, which is also training, but from a photography, documentary, and print photography aspect.
Windy Brow.
And Windy Brow, yes, of course. And Windy Brow
Hillbrow
Theatre in Doornfontein.
Yeah.
Tiamo, so I'm interested to know that outside of there are stakeholders, and the stakeholders being the artists, right? And there's always and will always be an expectation that the issues around access to publicly funded institutions, and how your role together with the artistic director is meant to ensure quality, is meant to ensure sustainability of the institution, but is also not meant to be seen as a gatekeeping role. So how can you help practitioners better understand your day-to-day functions around leading this organization and making sure that it's issues of sustainability going forward and quality?
Yeah, I think, when you started, your preamble was that being a leader in these public entities, there's pressure from left, right, top, bottom, center, everything.
All around you.
All around. And I would say all of them, most of them, if not all of them, are valid expectations, given the space that we are in as a public entity, right? Using the public purse. But all these expectations sometimes are at odds with each other.
Indeed.
Or you have some trade-offs, and sometimes some really difficult trade-offs to make, because you'll find that both requests or are valid.
Yeah, there's merit in both. Yeah.
But how, when you've got finite resources, do you do that?
Yeah.
And so how would I try to, bring in our constituency to appreciate that I'm not gatekeeping myself or artistic director or anybody else, is just an appreciation of that. I don't expect them to know the APPs, the SPPs, the midterm reviews, the budget cycle, treasury, whatever,
the bane of our lives.
We got a new memo last week from DPME.
I paid.
Anyway, but I think I just, firstly, because of the framework within which we work with, like all these acronyms that I've just thrown out now, they are so time consuming, and they make us, even if we could be agile on any given day and be able to respond to your request now within the next 24 hours, the minute it starts hitting procurement, then we have to bring in your SCM processes, and then there's the PFMA, there's all this legislative layers that we have to comply with. So it is for me, it would be for the understanding that we do the best that we can within the frameworks that we have, and that sometimes we have to be creative about how we get around the legislation.
Yes.
If government is
creative
listening,
within
we're
the
not
law.
saying. I was about to say we are not breaking the rules. No. NGSA. We are just trying to solve the problem, or to deliver on our mandate within the rules of the game. And that can sometimes take long. But that's one thing that I really appreciate about the team that we have. We do try to find a way around it. Yes, it does take time. Yes, it does frustrate people sometimes. But eventually we do try and find a way around it, because otherwise then what else do you do? What do you do if you've got a government? We don't exist without the 53 million that we get from government, right? We still need 10 million extra from funders per year to do the work, the programming, right? And then you get a funder who has a totally different view on how things should be done. Can't turn down the 10 million, but I'm not going to turn down the 53 million either, because we need that. So how do I find a way to get both of them to coexist while we deliver on the mandate and deliver a service to our patrons?
So in terms of we've spoken about the expectations and trying to marry these different stakeholder expectations under one hat, and that one hat being the one that you have to wear all the time. What would be the ideal situation, and it might be difficult to say from a South African context what the ideal might be, but how would you better position the organization and the responsibility that you have looking into the future? From a leadership perspective, obviously the conversation is about your role as a leader.
Look, so when I interviewed for the job, I had two main strands to my vision. Firstly,
it was at the height of COVID, but even before COVID, the audience numbers were dwindling, which means revenue was dwindling, everything, right? So the first strand was take care of home base, which is Newtown and Hillbrow or Doornfontein. Yeah, we choose when we're fancy. It's in New Doornfontein. It's in Hillbrow. So take care of home base. What does that mean? Make sure that we've got the most basic, at least the basics must always be there. We use the space to the best of our ability, to the maximum that we can, given the resources that we have. And we try to get in additional resources to take us to the next step above that. And I think from there, you'll see our numbers have increased from about 30,000 to about 55,000. We're still not at the 65,000 that we want to get, but audience numbers are increasing. Students, it's a mixed bag. The lab is holding its own. The photography is doing well, but then, I think now that we're going into the next MTSF period, 5-year period, gives us an opportunity for all our businesses to review their current operating models and whether or not they're sustainable, where are the bottlenecks, how do we fix them, is there anything new that we can do?
Hold on just one second. I think just as a footnote for our listeners to know that MTSF is medium-term strategic framework, and because of the 7th administration, you have to think about the next 5 years of the current administration.
Sorry. Not for
jargons. We get lost in it.
So it's take care of home, right? So it's the first long-winded part. The second part, which then will address the question that you asked, is support the ecosystem or bring along whoever you can.
Yes.
Right. I really don't think it's reasonable for six performing arts institutions. 2 in Gauteng, Ascent State Theatre, Playhouse in Durban, Parkhoffs in Free State, Artscape in Cape Town, and Nelson Mandela Bay in Gqeberha. I don't think that's feasible to have 6 of us taking care of 63 million people. The national.
Yes.
It's really unrealistic. It's unsustainable. It's impossible. So what can we as those entities that do get something, and mind you, our 53 million is short as it is. We're struggling.
It's not enough.
There's some sunken costs that are in there that could, if strategically reviewed and used, could maybe be used for the benefit of others. Who are the others? Independent spaces.
Right.
Like for instance, TX Theatre in Tembisa, the Alex Theatre.
Yes.
We've
the
just
community
done,
art centers.
The community art centers. We've just had we were lucky to get some money from DSAC to refurb our lighting grids.
Right.
What do we do with that old stock? It's still functioning. So what you have, can you give it to those entities? And why would you want to do that? Because firstly, they can also meet the audiences where they live. Because then you convert them there immediately. And what that can do is you also grow an audience, not just for Tembisa, but one day when we tour to Tembisa with a show from the Market Theatre, we've got an audience.
Facilities are up to scratch.
Right?
Yeah.
And one day that person might be driving on the N1 and see one of our billboards and say, hey, I remember these guys once came to us.
Exactly.
Let me go watch this show. And they can come to precinct, to home base. So I think for me, that would be liberalization, and it almost sounds counter-intuitive for somebody in my position with a secure job.
Resources in a sense.
To say that. But I think making the circle bigger sometimes
you have to bring everybody in.
Yeah.
And for audience as well. But let's just pause for a moment. I know that we have to pay the rent, and we will be back just after this.
The Southern African Music Rights Organization, SAMRO, administers performing rights on behalf of its members who are music composers, authors, and publishers. Did you know that when you attain SAMRO membership, you can earn royalties when your music is played in licensed venues? SAMRO licenses music users such as television and radio broadcasters, live music venues, retailers, restaurants, promoters, and shopping centers, and collects the license fees, which are then distributed distributed as royalties. Our music, your commitment, and enjoy music responsibly.
The 2024 987 Woman Takeover. Hashtag 987 Woman.
All right, welcome back, Power Lunch family. I'm still in conversation with Tsiamo Mokhadi, who is the CEO at the Market Theatre Foundation. And we're just really having a heart-to-heart conversation about her world and the space that she occupies as a leader within the arts and culture sector, but also running one of South Africa's most iconic institutions, being the Market Theatre. If you are still with us, we'd appreciate your call in. Our number is 0861 987 000. Our WhatsApp line is 083 303 7093. And if you are streaming, you're able to listen to us on audio channel, DSTV audio channel 889. So maybe let's look at the role that public entities should play in addressing gender disparities, right? There are few female heads of the DAC's Department of Sport, Arts and Culture institutions, including the institutions at local authority. Probably we just under 50%, if I'm not mistaken, if I were to take an estimate. So what do you think needs to happen in order to first develop the next pipeline of leaders? Because all of us are on limited time in terms of the tenure of our responsibilities. How do we make sure that these organizations are really changing the landscape, looking at the disparities that currently exist and what needs to happen going forward?
Sure. Okay. I don't know. Like I had a flood of thoughts as you were asking that. And I think the first thing that came to mind was, but do we not already have female potentials out there?
Yes.
I'd like to believe that there are, especially given that how many of us are in the DSAC stable? Probably 60-something entities or whatever.
26 entities.
Isn't
including boxing. No.
Oh.
26.
No, 26. So surely it shouldn't be, and I'm not saying that's the total world that we should look at, but I'm just using where I'm, the circle I'm in, and I'm going, then what is stopping us from getting to that 50%, because I would like to believe that there are worthy candidates out there that can give even me and everybody else a run for their money,
right?
For that position. So what's stopping us? And it's for that reason that then I get stuck. What's hindering us from appointing those people? And I really don't have the answer. I don't know.
It's okay.
Somebody has an answer.
It's okay not
can
to
tell
know.
us. But I truly believe that there are worthy female candidates out there.
Yes.
It's just now understanding why then we're not getting through the gate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess
and I think probably that's why I was also like, are you sure? Because I think I had
Yes, indeed.
Indeed. Yeah.
But I also think it's about being intentional and deliberate in finding talent, because like you say, the talent exists and we are not indispensable. There are young up and coming arts administrators, because our role really is an administrative role that can challenge us.
Absolutely.
But let's find them, and as you said earlier, how do we make the circle bigger?
For me, I really at this point in time, like it's been, like I've said, like it's been a really torrid time. But where one can, I really enjoy taking somebody on and just do you want to shadow? Do you want to work with me? What do you want to do? Do I need to mentor? Do I need to go give a talk or a lecture or something somewhere? I really
make yourself available.
Make myself available. And then also we used to run at the Market Theatre. Unfortunately, the contract with the funder came to an end, but we really had a very generous funder who used to support us for grade 11 and 12 high school learners
to get into this mentorship program, and all we focused on was behind the scenes careers in the performing arts, not acting. Actually, we would get them to direct famous actors.
Yes. Wow.
But you had your writers, your directors, and everything.
Amazing.
And I think that's the bit that we can do. I think there are other people that do something similar, but I think that's the bit that we can do to contribute to that and start the ball rolling.
Wonderful. Siamo, as we conclude this discussion on a really tough day, I'm like, yeah, no, guys, these positions, what we have to do with on a day-to-day basis. It's not easy, but we try our best. And I think it's about being well-intended. You know, we really are focused on changing the landscape for the arts. And it's been such an honor to have you, and only love and warm wishes for the road ahead. And good luck, whatever it is that you're dealing with today. Hey, Inzima, guys.
I'm glad this is. Oh, but we're on YouTube.
Of course, yes, we're on YouTube. we will wusa in private after this.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So much for such a lovely conversation with Tiamo. We have these moments where we just sit and talk and just unwind and take it all out, because we're human. We need to find spaces where we can get it all out in safe spaces, knowing that whoever you call upon is just available, willing to listen and willing to engage. And sometimes all you need is just to be told, you know what, you don't have to know it all. For today, you don't need to know the answers. Just think about the next foot. Where do you put the next foot forward? And I tell you, it happens, But I think mentors, all of us come from really wonderful line of being mentored and being supported by women and by men. And thank you for the men for standing in solidarity with us, and just being available to hear us when we cry, not figuratively, literally when we cry, and sometimes figuratively. But I appreciate Siamo and the work that the Market Theatre Foundation continues to do, and only have nothing but love for you and everybody else at this institution. And with that, Owen, do we take a break? News. Oh, is it news time? Ooh. Sorry, over to the News Huskies Power Lunch family.
This news broadcast is delivered by Mr. D, saluting all women who get things done.
Power News.
The top stories at the Sawa. Gauteng Education MEC says his department will be clamping down on unethical conduct in the private scholar transport industry, and the Cabinet has called on the public to assist police in their efforts to deal with criminal activities. With the news at 2, a very good afternoon to you. I'm Nyakallo Tefu. Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane says his department will be clamping down on unethical conduct in the private scholar transport industry. Chilwane was speaking on the sidelines of a joint funeral service for the victims of a scholar transport crash in Carltonville. Now in July, 11 school pupils and their driver perished when the transport was reportedly rear-ended by a bakkie, causing it to overturn before catching fire. The driver of the bakkie, Gert van Emmenis, was arrested and charged with 12 counts of culpable homicide. He has since been released on 20,000 rand bail. MEC Chilwane says they will engage the private scholars transport sector on matters of compliance and safety.
The crackdown, what I mean is that we're going to firm our hands. And the tool that we have as a department at our hands is the schools. Because they bring these children to schools. We've got patrollers at schools. These patrollers are going to give them an instruction to say they must go and assess the vehicles that bring our children to school. And as the vehicle comes, they look at the state, they report it. And if we are not happy with the condition of that vehicle, we are taking the responsibility that we are going to keep our learners.
In other news, Cabinet has called on the public to assist police in their efforts to deal with criminal activities. Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Chabeni, says recent criminal activities in the public domain formed part of discussions at this week's Cabinet meeting. These include the illegal military camp in Mpumalanga, where 95 Libyan nationals were arrested, and the violence that broke out at a primary school in Katlehong over a family custody battle. Chabeni says South Africans must assist law enforcement in the fight fight against crime.
Cabinet has reiterated a call to all South Africans to partner with law enforcement agencies in the fight against crime without resorting to vigilantism. Cabinet has taken a dim view of actions by some community leaders that amounted to threatening of learners and teachers at their school. The Department of Basic Education will continue to work with the South African Police Service to ensure schools remain safe spaces for learning and teaching.
In other news, Gauteng Taxi Association Santaco and NTA distanced themselves from ongoing acts of intimidation and extortion targeting e-hailing operators. The two associations are responding to claims that their members are using violent tactics to force e-hailing operators to use Shesha, the new South African-owned e-hailing app. Numerous e-hailing operators claim that they have been forced at gunpoint to delete Uber and Bolt apps so that they can use the Shesha app, which is backed by the two taxi associations. NTA spokesperson Theo Malele condemned such criminal acts, saying the perpetrators must be reported to the police.
These matters are sheer thuggery and as such should be reported to law enforcement authorities so that these are nipped in the bud once and for all, because we are here to make money but not to create enemies.